just a quick show of hand. Before people knew me here, how many had heard or knew about Hope Air? One half hand. What about United Way? Okay, so everybody knew about United Way. And that has been my experience. And this is the reason why I love to talk about Hope Air and this very important charity. We'll start with the little video. Sorry, start the video now. It's only a little introduction video, but that's the one.
For many Canadians in need of vital medical care, getting from this seat at home to one in a hospital far away would seem impossible, which is why we make sure they get a seat on here. By arranging free flights and accommodations, we bridge the distance between home and hospital.
So this is what we're going to do. Talk about Hope Air. I'm going to give a quick history, the why, the how, where the flights come from, a little bit of the evolution of the charity, how many people Hope Air has helped, a summary, quick video if we have time, and questions. Slide. So Hope Air, we are lucky here in this country that we do have universal healthcare. Although there are some problems with universal healthcare, we do have it, but we don't have access to that universal healthcare. Part of it has to do with the government, where they want to choose to spend their money. The other part is because of the size of the country and where people live. Most people live within about 150 kilometers from the American border. And we have the second largest country in the world. So I'll give you a quick example here. Let's say you live in Hearst. And for people that don't know where Hearst is in Northern Ontario. And you've been diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer. Well, there's nothing people can do there for you. So you have to go down to Toronto Princess Margaret Hospital to get treatment. If you are lucky and you have flexibility with your work, then you can drive yourself there. It's about 10.5-hour drive, one way. So now imagine this. You have to go on a drive, 10.5 hours, get chemotherapy, and then jump back in a car to drive another 10.5 hours. If you're lucky and you're able to keep your job, you're still going to have a financial hit because there's going to be some days where you're not going to be working. If it comes to a point where you can no longer afford to go there, the government will provide you with the cheapest possible means to go to your treatment, and that's the bus. The bus from Hearst to Toronto is 17 hours. So just imagine that you need chemotherapy, you jump on the bus for 17 hours, get your chemotherapy, they will not provide for accommodation, you have to jump back on the bus and come back home for another 17 hours. It's not humane, it's not right. Where Hope Air comes in is they can use people like me who have an airplane. And the flight from Hearst to Toronto in my airplane is about 3 hours and 15 minutes. Now that starts to make sense. So, Hope Air is not just in Ontario. Hope Air is Canada's only national charity providing free accommodation for Canadians in financial needs who must access medical care far from home. So the example of Hearst fits exactly that bill. It is also rated one of the top 100 charities in Canada, yet most people don't know about it. So this is why I'm doing these kind of presentations. Slide. So a quick history. First flight was in 1986. It was a young girl from my home province of New Brunswick. She needed to have cancer treatment in Toronto. So at the time, they flew her to Toronto. There's over 10 million Canadians that live outside large city centers, and there's about 3.2 million Canadians that live below the poverty line. Since 1986, Hope Air provided over 172,000 flights. That's a lot. Okay. Now, most of those flights, almost the entirety of those flights, are either purchased by au pair, so they need to raise money in order to purchase those airplane tickets. Or in some cases, when the airlines got the room in the empty seat, they are able to give that seat to au pair. Out of that 172,000, there's 3,100 flights that are provided by volunteer pilots like me. Okay, slide. So volunteer pilots, the volunteer pilot program, the key word being volunteer, because you're not getting paid for this. Au pair pays about half of the fuel, and then they give me a charity receipt for the rest of the wear and tear of the airplane. Okay. So volunteer pilot program, they are pilots using their own airplane for flights for au pair. Where it's a small number of flights, but it's a very important part of au pair because we are able to provide we have the flexibility to go to communities that do not have regular air service. Example of Hearst, again, they don't have regular air service there. Also, when somebody applies to au pair, everything is done through computers. So they give the information, financial statement, the appointment they have to go to, etc., and then they get screened. If they get accepted, then they get their airplane ticket again sent through computer. So they don't get to see anybody. So we become the face also of the charity. Lori knows I'm a little bit of a space nerd, and if you ask her, a little bit being a lot. I like to compare it to NASA. If I talk about NASA, a space entity, first thing that comes to mind is astronauts, right? So we think of NASA, the astronauts. Yet, human space flight, the astronaut program, the human space flight only accounts for about 15% of NASA's budget. 85% is everything else, Mars rover, etc., etc. It's a little bit the same with au pair, with the volunteer pilot program. It's a small portion. It only comes to about 10% of the flights, but it's an important one. It makes it relatable. It puts a face to the charity. I'm saying this, but I do not want to belittle the fact that it provides a huge flexibility to reach communities that don't have airline services. Even if they have airline services, there's some communities, they may have 1 or 2 flights a week. And if it doesn't work with their appointment, well, they're out of luck, right? Slide, please. This to me is the most important slide of the presentation. It really brings it home. If au pair did not exist, if you look at the second bullet, if au pair did not exist, 30% of au pair patients would either cancel or postpone their appointment. Another 14% would need to borrow money in order to go to their appointment. And the last bullet, another 4% would have to ask somebody else to buy their ticket. That's almost half of au pair clients. We call it clients because we're not a hospital, so we call it clients, but they are patients. So almost half of au pair clients would either cancel or postpone medical appointment that they need in order to live. Take a moment to think about this. Almost half of people au pair flies would either cancel or postpone an appointment that they need in order to live. Slide, please. So au pair eliminates the barrier between the healthcare through free flights, as I've said before, commercial or volunteer pilot program, through ferry and bridge passes, free overnight accommodations through hotel partnership, ground transportation from the airport to the hospital and hotel, and some free meal vouchers. The mother-daughter team that you see there in picture, they live in Gore Bay. For those that don't know where it is, it's on Manitoulin Island in northern Georgian Bay. Okay. I know she has to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. I don't even think she drives, but she has to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. Her daughter has to go to Ottawa, Chio, every month. For her to drive to Ottawa, it's a 7.5-hour drive. If that doesn't work, she can fly, but it takes 2.5 hours to go from Gore Bay to the closest commercial airport, which is Sudbury, and then take a flight from Sudbury to Toronto, and then get out, take another flight from Toronto to Ottawa. It really doesn't make sense. And if they can't afford to do that, well, guess what? The bus doesn't go there. So they're stuck. In my airplane, it takes just a little over 2 hours to go from Gore Bay to Ottawa. It makes sense. Next slide, please. Au-pair bridges the distance between home and the hospital for patients in financial need with a confirmed medical appointment that is covered by the provincial healthcare plan. So it can't be for just anything you want to do. You have a zip. No, that doesn't work like that. For all ages and all medical needs. With a caveat for the all medical needs, you need to be able to be allowed to fly. So there are some medical situations where you may not be able to fly in an airplane, but for all intents and purposes, usually you can. That picture there, her name is Lorena. Remember the example I gave you about living in Hearst with stage 3 ovarian cancer? Well, that's her. It's a real person. And that smile that you see there, she's got that on her face all the time. She's an incredible person. Incredible. Slide, please. Okay, the numbers for 2022, last year. Au-pair provided over 5,800 flights, of which 58 was from the volunteer pilot program, about 10%. Over 890 ferry and bridge passes, and over 2,200 nights of accommodations. And for patients as old as 1 year old and as young as 93. That has been an increase of 43% compared to 2021. So there's a huge increase. So I just like that picture. It bridges the distance between home and the hospital. Slide. How you can help, you can go on the net and go to aupair.ca, not .com, but .ca. There's a couple of tabs on top. There's a bunch of tabs, but one says donate. And then there's another one, how to get involved. If you click on that one, there's a whole bunch of places where example as to how you can help out. Actually, on one of my presentations, somebody was inspired and clicked on that and became a client care provider for Au-pair. And slide. So I've got about a 2.5 minute slide. I'm in that little video, I'm in that video if you're interested to watch it. It gives you a little bit of an idea why I do it.
Hi, I'm Mark Rubenstein, CEO with Au-pair. Each year, Au-pair assists families and children in need who must travel long distance.
The part of the video I wanted to show you is one flight I did with Lori, and it was a young woman from Sault Ste. Marie who were flying her to London, Ontario, for her appointment. For her, it would have been close to 10 hours of driving. She didn't drive. For us, it took about 2 hours to fly. Now, about half an hour before landing, so this young woman, about half an hour before landing, she says, I'm sorry, but I don't know if I should say this. This has been the best day of my life. I don't want this flight to end. And this is a good reason why I want to do stuff like this. Okay, so that's the airplane I use. That's my airplane. And the next slide. Here's Lorena again. And that was right after a fight. I was bringing her back home. And on the spur of the moment, she just went there, whipped out a headscarf and took a selfie of the two of us. And she said, I want to see which one of us has the best hairdo. She wins by a long shot.